Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to give a few seconds for people to start coming in here, get adjusted. You need to go grab a drink of water, grab a snack. We are about to really dig into some really great information. So, before we get started, I just want to say welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We know you have a lot of places that you could be, but you decided to be here with us. So welcome to the Black EXP Network Tribe Trainings. We do this every Tuesday. I'm sorry, not every Tuesday. We don't do this every Tuesday. We do this every second Tuesday of the month. And we have some really great speakers that are here to give you some game on how to improve your business, improve yourself, and so much more. And so just a quick disclaimer, we have really great speakers and many of them have so many products, services, things to offer. But just to let you know that we here at Black EXP Network do not endorse any products or services, but you are more than welcome to follow our speakers on their social media, reach out to them. They will give you their information and check out what they have to offer. So before we really get started into any intros, would love to kind of know where everybody is checking in from. So if you are in the chat, and we also like to test to make sure this chat is working, if you could tell us where you're from, drop your market area. See, we got some Washington, D-Town. Oh, we're gonna have to hear about the eclipse experiences. Nashville, Atlanta, Los Angeles. Awesome. We have folks from all over. Illinois, Austin. All right. And I'm in Houston. All right, guys. So I'm really excited to bring you our guest speaker for this evening, Keith Sconier. Am I saying that right? Can you school
Close
me on
enough. Sconiers.
that?
Sconiers.
Sconiers,
Yeah.
Sconiers. He is an entrepreneur, storyteller, and catalyst for change. He was born in Fresno, California, and raised by split parents and a wise, no-nonsense grandmother. Keith faced many adverse circumstances that quickly put him in the at-risk youth category. So I'm not going to steal too much of his story and give it to you here because I'm sure he's going to get into it. But in 2020, Keith launched Catalyst Training and Development to fulfill a dream of helping entrepreneurs align their business with their purpose. Keith's mission is to help entrepreneurs proactively integrate their core values into their business so they can build profitable and rewarding organizations. So let's welcome Keith. Maybe if in the chat you can give him a round of applause or a mighty welcome from our tribe. So Keith, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm going to let you kick it off and take it away. If you have a presentation to share, go ahead and drop that on the screen. And I will be here just so everyone knows I'm kind of here to help with moderation. We have some of our other players, Ashley, Monique, and Melanie, that are going to help us with questions. If you have any questions along the way, drop them in the chat. We're going to do our best to ask them. And maybe later, if we're feeling, you know, if we're feeling good about it, we might even open up a mic for a question or two. So, all right, Keith,
Awesome.
feel free to take us
Awesome.
away.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm trying to share and it says host disabled participant screen sharing. And I thought I was the host for a second there.
Melanie, you're going to have to help us out with that whenever you get a
Try
second.
again.
There we go. Can you see my screen? Awesome. So thank you so much. Ever since I had dinner, my wife and I were down in Texas and we convinced or somehow got lucky and ran into Fee Gentry down in Texas. And so ever since she shared a little bit about the BEN, I've been excited. I mean, we've been talking about it long before I actually came to Texas. So very excited to be here today just to share my story, but also share what I believe everyone here can learn from the journey that I've been on in building the foundation for powerful relationships. So let's get started. Who am I? My screen's not working, or this isn't working, but I'll just use my mouse. Husband, father, friend, founder of Catalyst Training and Development. Also PaySuite, which is a payment consulting company that I started in 2017. I'm the author of The Power of Connection, which is a course that teaches realtors how to build powerful business relationships. and the real estate advisor, which teaches agents how to transition from agent to advisor in their relationships. I'm also a certified coach with the Maxwell Leadership Organization. And I'm really excited here to talk because today in real estate, there's so much going on. And the top three issues that I've recognized in talking with agents has been interest rates have put ownership on pause for many people who are ready to buy or wanted to buy. The NAR lawsuit, right, has potentially impacted buyer side compensation. And so people are concerned about that. And then also a stat from the NAR is that 67% of people use a different realtor in their next transaction. So today I want to talk about building the foundation for powerful relationships because relationships, owning the relationship is more important than it's ever been. And so let's talk a little bit about my journey though, in terms of what what my journey's been like. So I'll talk about the journey that I've been on, the adversity and failures, the moment it all changed for me, what the top 10% of real estate agents possess that the others don't, how to build your foundation, and how to reposition your relationship so that you can double your income. So it's my journey. So I was born and raised in Fresno, California, born to my mom and my dad, who my mom was working in the restaurant business while she was studying to get her license to become a real estate agent. My dad had been building houses since he was 14 years old, building homes with my grandfather, who was a military veteran who was discharged for medical reasons. But after leaving the military, he got a contract, an eminent domain contract, actually, to tear down homes. And with that wood, part of his contract, he got to keep the wood and he built my grandmother a 6-bedroom house on a half an acre. A home has never had a mortgage on it. It's the home that my father lives in today. And that's the legacy that my grandfather left for my grandmother. But my family owned several $1 million worth of real estate, right? And you would have thought that, you know, we were like, I was set up, that things were going to be great for me because I had these two ambitious parents, one who was going to build houses, the other one who was going to sell houses. And our family owned several $1 million worth of real estate as well, which they lost prior to me coming of age. And so that led to my mom becoming a single mom. They split, and my dad got involved in the wrong crowd. And this led in him into selling drugs and eventually going to prison. And so I was raised by my mom, who was a real estate agent, um, up until the point she met my stepfather. And it was a challenging environment because my stepdad, was a great man, but he was abusive. And so my fourth grade summer started with Child Protective Services taking me from my mom and my stepdad, my older brother as well. My older brother went to live with my grandmother, and custody was given to my biological dad, who had been released from prison. And I didn't know where he was many of the times growing up when I was with my mom and my stepdad because they kept him at a distance, and I would soon figure out why. So when I went to live with when I went to live with my dad, I learned that he was still battling addiction, incarceration, and mental health issues. This led to many behavioral challenges on my part, including drugs, theft, alcohol use, getting expelled in the 5th grade, 6th grade, twice in the 7th and the 8th grade, 5 different homes, one hotel in less than 3 years. And so life was extremely challenging. And my dad ended up going back to prison. And so I had to go live with my grandmother. And you would think that now that I had this stable home, my grandmother, this no nonsense, wonderful woman from Louisiana, um, who was, would get physical with you, right? I'm sure, you know, anyone here that's listening in that had a grandmother from the South, you know, they'll tell you how they feel, and you will feel, they'll give you those hands, right? So, um, I wish that I could say that I actually listened to what my grandmother had to say, and it's taken 30 years for me to actually to implement many of her anecdotes and advice, but I didn't. I got expelled again as soon as my freshman year in high school, 1.3 GPA going absolutely nowhere. Kicked off campus my freshman year in high school, not doing well in class, disrespecting teachers, getting in altercations in school, and just going absolute nowhere. Right. And then one day, a basketball coach, my first mentor, steps in my life and says, "Hey, kid, you could be a Division I athlete." I had no idea what it was. I had no interest in sports because my stepdad was former NFL and also coach baseball. So I didn't want anything to do with sports because of my relationship with my stepdad. My stepdad and I, we do have a great relationship today, but back then it wasn't so great. And so when this man stepped in my life and basically put me on the basketball team, I stopped failing classes. I started respecting my teachers, focused on being responsible on campus as much as I possibly could. I still got into little situations, but it wasn't as intense. And 4 years later, I got a Division I scholarship to come to Portland State. Now I got to Portland State, and they recruited me to be a center, power forward, rebound, play defense, take charges. And so I spent most of my college career frustrated and didn't have the career that I wanted to have. So, I even though I had achieved something that only 4% of athletes achieve, I felt like a complete failure. And so after 4 years of working hard and, coming back from knee surgery and doing everything that I could to, be successful on the court, I decided that when my college career was over, that I was going to go in a different direction of sports. I wasn't going to pursue going overseas or anything like that because I was sick and tired of having coaches tell me what to do, which is why probably many of you got into real estate. You probably got into real estate because you wanted to own your own life. You wanted to make as much money as you wanted to make. You wanted to be able to travel when you wanted to travel. You wanted to be able to work with who you wanted to work with whom you wanted to work with, wherever you wanted to work. Right. And so we have kindred spirits here on this call today. Um, because we all have that mission of working in our community, having an impact on our community. And that's what was ingrained in me as a kid who would spend, when I wasn't, because I wasn't at school and I was getting kicked out of school, I got to go to work with my dad, right? And I got to go to open houses with my mom when I was with her. And so we all had that kindred spirit of being determined to like take control of our own destiny. And that's where I was when I left college. And so I was determined to be successful. And I can tell you what, I was successful. I succeeded. I succeeded at having 17 jobs. I successfully launched the worst career campaign in world history. I got evicted within my first year out of college. I was depressed in my godparents' attic within that first year as well. 17 jobs in 11 years, fired 4 times, divorced before I turned 30. And I can tell you that I was tired of failing. And one night, a mentor that I was in business with came to my house after a business meeting that we had. And over a meal, he basically told me, "Keith, your people skills suck." He said, "You need to learn how to connect with people." And I was frustrated. I don't know that I wanted to hear what he had to say that night. But the next morning, I woke up with desire because he was right. Because the reason why I was failing in all these different jobs was because I didn't have a good relationship with myself. And because I didn't have a good relationship with myself, I couldn't have a relationship with other people. And so that started me on a journey. This sent me on a journey to learn what successful entrepreneurs possessed that I didn't. And on this journey, I learned so many different lessons. And it led me to, in 2017, I resigned from my nonprofit job, which was my 17th job in 11 years, right? I resigned with no money in my bank account or savings or anything like that, no business plan to become an entrepreneur. And I found success. It's been 7 years as of actually March 31st. It was 7 years that I've been in business. And I've been able to, you know, do really well. Been able to travel, been able to see my family, been able to have complete control over my schedule, work with companies and entrepreneurs all around the United States. And it's only because of that conversation that I had with my mentor at that dinner table where he talked to me about the importance of relationship that I am here today talking with you. And so, what did I learn and how can you leverage it in real estate? This is what's important. My story and all the things that I've experienced really aren't all that important. What's important is, what do you want to get out of your real estate business, and how do you get where you want to go faster, which is my mission. So, what did I learn? Well, I learned that what the top 10% have that the others don't is, number one, is they have values that inform their business principles and brand. So, I want you to think about that right now as we talk. How are your core values and the things that you stand for? How are you communicating those in your relationships, in your marketing, in how you do business with people or how you conversate with people? Because I'm going to take you through a process today to where you can figure that out, or at least make adjustments to it. The second thing they have is they have dreams, which are goals in their heart and mind that they refuse to give up on. When I was getting fired and, going through all the different jobs, I had the dream, but I also, you know, um, also, there was times where I didn't, which is why I quit, right? Which is why I was unclear. And so think about you and where you are today and why you got into real estate. I want you to take some time to really recommit to that, because it's tough times right now and many people are leaving the industry. And so right now is the time to double down on why we got into real estate. The third thing that the top 10% have that the others don't is that they have relationships, people that do ongoing business with them and refer. And so today we want to talk about, how do you implement these three things into your life and your business so that you can get where you're trying to go faster. So, number one, I want you to write these exercises down, because I want you to truly take some time later on tonight and actually think about it. So, think about one of the most life changing events or impactful events of your life, either good or bad. And you know, if you have a coach or you have a counselor, sometimes these require, having people in your life who can help you, process through these situations. But I think that these situations are really important and they really shape who we are. So think about one of the most life-changing events of your life, good or bad, and I want you to write it down. And once you write it down, I want you to take some time and journal about the lessons you learned from that incident or event in your life, and then distill it down to one word. Let me give you an example. When I lived with my dad, which, let me preface, my dad is still my hero, regardless of his shortcomings, the challenges he faced with addiction, incarceration, mental health issues, any of those things. He's still my hero. But when I was in the seventh grade, my dad would leave me alone oftentimes, right? He'd be gone for several days at a time. And the first time that this happened, I remember watching the news and hearing about an altercation that happened in a neighborhood where we would go when he would be, um, using drugs or, spending time with the wrong crowd. And I remember watching the news and watching, the reporter talk about an altercation, and he hadn't been home for several days. And I was convinced that, that my dad had passed away. And I'd cry myself to sleep and, you know, try to eat something, but it was several days before I saw my dad again. And when I went back and processed and thought about that journey, that experience, those several nights that I spent alone, and I reflected on how it impacted my life, the word that came to my mind was responsibility. And why was it responsibility? It was responsibility because I still went to school. I still woke up and went to school. And so, because that is so central to my being as a person, I have several other core values that are really important, but responsibility is one that I really use to help me make decisions. And I've used it over and over and over again in my life. And Once you know what this core value is, what you want to do is you want to create a process or a procedure that you will implement personally and professionally. So when I've gone through personal things in my life, I've always taken the time to actually sit down, reflect, and take responsibility for my part. That includes going to counseling. That includes sitting down with a pastor. That includes sitting down with, accountability partners, coaches, looking for resources, reaching out to my community. And these are all things that you can do in your life and should do in your life as well. As you think about this core value, think about how can you convert that into a process or a procedure that you can implement personally and professionally. When I have things that happen in my business, several weeks ago, we had something go wrong with a customer where they changed their bank account, and we had to, we changed their bank account. The number was wrong, so their money was held up. And so we ended up, fronting money to a customer to make sure that they keep their business running. And we didn't blame it on somebody else. We said, this is our fault, which is why we were willing to front capital to make sure a business was able to keep going. So that's how I use my core value. And this is important to you in your business because you need to figure out a way to communicate what it is that you do in a way that's unique, right? I think that there's a lot of noise in terms of how to get out there and get in front of people and talk about the NAR lawsuit, or talk about, what's happening with inventory, or let's talk about interest rates. And it's, only a handful of things that you can communicate on and actually be unique because everybody has access to the same information. Everybody's talking to the same handful of thought leaders on real estate, whether it be Tom Ferry or, Brian Buffini or the other Ferry, right? And so please don't post that. Won't know him know how to refer to him as the other Ferry because he's actually the dad, but Mike Ferry. So create a process or a procedure that you can implement personally and professionally. Second, dreams. Take the time to think about what you want to experience in your real estate business and life. And this is critically important because we talk about the 10% that have and possess things that the other 90% don't have, they don't quit. They have dreams that they're unwilling to give up on. And oftentimes we quit on dreams because we have never written them down. So do that. Take some time to write down the dreams that you want to experience in your real estate business or in your life in general, right? It can be much bigger than real estate. I think, for most entrepreneurs, sometimes the business isn't the dream. It's the goal. The goal is the dream, and the business is the vehicle to get us there. And so take some time if you haven't for a while. I think sometimes when, markets shift and things get crazy, we forget that we actually have dreams because we get, we lock into scarcity. We start chasing money, or we start, doing other things or focusing on other things, and we get disconnected for why we do what we do. And once you've written it down, find someone that you can be accountable to for the dreams you want to accomplish. I think another reason why we quit is that we've never told anybody what our dream is. And since nobody knows we're not pursuing it anymore. Right. So find somebody who can hold you accountable and that you can hold accountable, because that's critical as well. Right. Being able to have people that, I had a mentor that just came to mind is he talks about, um, you know, two logs burn 10 times longer than one log does for whatever reason, right? It's like two people can go much further than one could ever go on his own, right? Third, relationships. Take the time to think about who you want to serve as clients and begin to learn about them. I believe in How to Win Friends and Influence People. One of the keys to building powerful relationships is being genuinely interested and other people. And as professionals, as entrepreneurs, we're always taught about the pitch, about what we have to say, and how are we different? And I think that's important because you do need to communicate value. You do need to be great at what you do. But how often do we get encouraged to actually learn about people instead of just spewing information, instead of just, talking to them about interest rates or talking about why they're, wasting money by renting? The facts are the facts, right? Yeah, interest rates historically have been higher. However, we haven't been paying for, XYZ things, right? Or food costs, or the actual price of homes. Like there's so many different things. And I think that, yes, while, interest rates have been historically higher, I think that if we take the time to really ask questions and allow people to share what they're concerned about and what bothers them and what their unique position is, then we actually build a real relationship versus someone feeling like they're just getting the language that real estate professionals are told to use, right? And so learn how to use the forms process. We're learning about the journey that other people are on. Now, what's the forms process? You may have heard of it: family, occupation, recreation, motivation, style, or story. Those are all different things that I listen for or ask questions around. I'm sure that many of you, if you've been in real estate for a while, you know what this stands for, right? And you know how to use it. But I'm an introvert, right? I'm an introvert who left his job with no money and no, process for, selling and all those things. And I had to figure out how I was going to build real relationships with people instead of being like this extroverted like salesperson, right? And so figure out family, how to ask questions about family and listen and ask follow-up questions. Occupation is their job. How do you feel about your job? Do you see yourself being in this job for a while? Is this where you want to be in 10 years? Or is there another position that you're thinking about studying for? R is relationships, family situation, right? Motivation. Where does real estate fit? Where do you want to accomplish? You see yourself staying in Oregon or Georgia or Texas long term? Where do you see yourself wanting to build your family at? Are there any schools that are important to little Johnny or Jessica or whatnot? Style, personality style. This is important for you to be able to recognize in other people. This is something that I observe as I'm evaluating people, right? Is what is their style? Are they extroverted? Or are they introverted? They're extroverted. I'm giving them the invite to the meeting, to the networking event, because it's something that they want to do. If they're introverted, I might, you know, want to connect with them one-on-one for a cup of coffee or a phone call, right? These are all things that play into you being able to build a relationship with people. As you do this, you want to write down the details of others' dreams and goals. Now, I'm pretty sure I don't know, but I've been in a lot of sales conversations. I've been in a lot of conferences. I've never been told that I should write down other people's dreams and goals, right? Very rare, but I think you should, because this is a key to you transitioning your relationship from being an agent to an advisor. Advisors listen and advisors take action. Agents want to sell because we all get paid to sell, right? But advisors listen and take action. Because if you could take action on the dreams and the goals that people share with you, then you position yourself, you change the dynamics of the relationship. So take action on others' dreams by introducing them to people in your network and to others that can help them reach their goals, right? And this is how you shift from being an agent to an advisor and repositioning your relationship with clients. Now, when you're able to do this, because your relationship dynamic changes and you're not just somebody that put them on a a email like auto responder or newsletter, then people begin to come to you as a solution provider, not just a real estate agent. And for example, let's say that you work with business owner clients and your business owner client came to you and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm thinking about selling my business." And you referred that over to a business broker. Well, then now, because you have a real estate license, you can actually be compensated. And I've seen agents make significant amount of money just on referrals to business brokers or other commercial real estate agents. Or, I own a software and payments business. Like we've paid agents for referring business to us. These are all different opportunities, and the opportunities are endless. But when it starts with you changing the relationship you have with your customer, if you can change the relationship you have with your customer and you become a solution provider, then when your customer needs help and they see you as a person who understands what their goals are, has built trust with that customer, they'll reach out to you and they say, "Hey, you know what? I'm looking to exit my business, or I'm looking to, get some benefits. Do you know anybody?" Well, those are opportunities where you can not only retain that customer because they're probably not going to go with the next hot realtor who they found on Instagram, or the family member who just decided that they were going to, pick up real estate on the side, right? They're going to come to you because you're an advisor, right? And so by listening, by asking those questions, by taking genuine interest, and by actually going above and beyond to pay attention to what's important to them, then you actually become the advisor in that relationship. And if you do that, my favorite quote I'll end with is, when you help enough people get what they want, you get everything that you want. And I found that this to be 100% true, because in all of my journey of going out and building my business and being able to provide for my family for the past 7 years, I haven't had to be the transactional salesperson. I've been able to build real relationships with people, and people reach out with new opportunities and clients and things of that nature. And I've been able to live the life that I want. And it's because of this favorite quote: when you help other people get what they want, you get everything you want. My name is Keith Sconiers. I'll actually leave my contact information here if you'd like to get connected, or follow me on my website or Instagram. This is my handle is all the same. So thank you.
Wow, that was really great. Thank you so much, Keith. I was hanging. I know I turned my video off, and I know it's kind of hard when we're on the webinar style because it's such powerful information. You shared your story, and you can't always see people's
Yeah.
expressions and things. But thank you for sharing your story with us. And I do want to open it up for questions. If anyone has questions that they want to drop, I know that I have a couple myself, so I can get it kicked off and started. But please
Yeah.
feel free to drop a question in the chat. Or if you want to, Melanie, you can kind of guide me on this if we have the ability to do this. But if anyone wants to ask a question live, um, raise your hand or
Yes,
Melanie.
raise your hand and then we will come to you. We'll unmute you if you raise your hand.
Okay. But my question, I had a couple, but I know you initially started off by saying that you had a mentor that kind of changed your life and just the way
Mhm.
that you thought about things. So for many of us, we jump into this real estate business just really not knowing what we're doing. I was when you mentioned we get into this because we want to work less and we want to make a lot of money because it all looks pretty on TV. I was like, yes, absolutely. That's why I got into this and found out that things were a little bit different than I expected. But how would you suggest that anyone on this call could go about finding a mentor? Yes, we have EXP, mentor program, and that connects you with someone who can kind of help you with, the logistics of real
Mhm.
estate. But what would you say is a good way to, like, if there was somebody I wanted to, like somebody that I've been watching, how would
Mm.
you suggest approaching that person?
Yeah, I think there's a number of different ways that you can. Sometimes if you've been watching and observing people, um, they make that an opportunity, right? Like they talk about mentoring, right? And I think we all kind of gotta be a little careful with that, because sometimes it's like, oh, let me mentor you, and it's more of like, well, come over here and join my team, right? But
Yeah.
it's like, but I think you want to find people that who's doing. I guess the question I would ask is like, who's doing what you want to do in the way that you want to do it, that you honor, that you respect, and that you trust, right? And if you can figure out who that person is, then I would say build a relationship, right? Because sometimes it's like a formal like mentorship, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just like a solid relationship where you can go and talk to somebody without feeling like you're there to sell them something, or they're there to somehow benefit and sell you something, or some economic thing, right? um, I have a mentor who I'm in constant communication with right now. His name is Jerry Acuff. He wrote a book called The Relationship Edge in Business. That's the book, after my mentor told me that my people skills suck, that I found after like digging through books and books and books, because so many of the books are like what to do to people and how to get people to trust you and how to manipulate people. And as a person like, like I grew up in a neighborhood where I'm sorry, um, I grew up in a neighborhood where there was a drug dealer who was making a lot of money. You know what I mean? And like I never wanted to do that. I never wanted to just sell people stuff,
Yeah.
you know? And that just got me way off track. But I when I read all these books about what to do to people, like I just couldn't connect with it. And when I read this book, I connected with it, and it changed who I was and how I thought about building relationships to the point that I reached out and I built a relationship. I sent him a card and I said, thank you for writing this book, because I wouldn't be here today. You know, there would be no way. It's called The Relationship Edge in Business. The author's name is Jerry Acuff. Um,
The relate.
and yeah, so I would say that,
Monique's on it. She dropped the link.
yeah. So find somebody who does business the way that you want to do business, and literally chase them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's so great where you said, sometimes, sometimes we put people on these pedestals where they seem so far away,
Yeah.
but you reached out, you wrote a note to an author of a
Mhm.
book. And I think it's so small, like reaching back,
Mhm.
that really makes the biggest difference.
Yeah.
One person, let's see, I saw something. Cortez mentioned, he asked if we could get the forms acronym again, and I'm assuming Monique will be there to drop it in the chat.
Yeah. Family, occupation, recreation, motivation, style. I have that in my mind as I'm having conversations, because I'm gonna be honest, like I had to teach myself how to have conversations, and how to keep the conversation going and not make it about like, all right, so let's get down to the brass tacks.
Absolutely.
I was
Absolutely.
like, because people don't want to be like, man, how come every time I talk to Keith, he want to know if I'm ready to buy?
Yeah. So as we go into that story of like you get into real estate after you figure you would just make a lot of money and not have to do any work. One of the first lessons you learn, or at least I did with the brokerage that I initially joined, it was, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but it was like, call your sphere of influence. And here's the
Mhm.
script. And the script is, hi, I am a new real estate agent. And I just want to let you I'm a real estate agent. So if you know of anybody who wants to buy or sell,
Yeah,
and that was so awkward for me. And I just did not like the feeling of selling anyone.
yeah.
And it probably wasn't until years later that I learned Ford, which same thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
Yeah.
It was just a framework for having a conversation, not about selling anyone,
Mm-hmm.
but just about creating a relationship first.
Yeah.
Because if you create a relationship first and then you have knowledge about real
Mm-hmm.
estate, then people will naturally come to you for
Yeah.
your knowledge at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
But
See, we got to create one now, like F-150. Like, go ahead and find your find 150 people that do business the way that you want to do business, right?
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
most people would prefer to do relationship-based business.
Yeah.
Um, I'll say that another option that you can do, because finding a mentor is one, um, but getting connected into different groups.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that, some, like actually the people that are on this panel with me were some that I met at a conference. Monique, shout out to Monique, who actually got me connected to Black EXP Network. And here I am today with so many valuable relationships that are
Yeah.
so meaningful and
Yeah.
very fruitful when it comes to, business relationships too.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I have a
Any more
question,
questions?
Rachel. Can I ask? Can I unmute?
Yeah. Yeah, you can. Please do.
So Keith, thank you for sharing this story. It's awesome. So my question is kind of two-part, I guess. So in this world we live now where so much relationship, quote unquote, is on social media and digital,
Mm-hmm.
right? And not face
Mm-hmm.
to face. Um, what challenge did that bring to you? Or did that change the way you operate? Do you operate differently in the digital world that way? And
Mm-hmm.
then secondly, obviously you have shared, so much of your story, right? So you're completely vulnerable in that way, sharing all your trials and tribulations. And for people who are not, what do you think the importance of that is for people who may not be as comfortable sharing that being that vulnerable, being that open in the effort to build relationships? How important is that in your estimation?
Yeah, I think that vulnerability can be like a slippery slide, right? And so I think that we have to be mindful of why we're sharing and how we're sharing, right? Because I think that if it's out of context, then it can come off as like a manipulation, like a manipulative tactic, right? To get people to like warm up to you, which I think people do, right? I think that there are people who do operate from that standpoint of like, let me just get on here and bust out some tears real quick, and you know what I mean. But I think that to answer your question in terms of how social media has changed and what I think about how important vulnerability is, I think authenticity is critical. And so, number one, I share when I feel it's relevant, not um, because I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. I don't want people to feel like they have to share. But if I'm a spiritual person, right? So if the spirit tells me like I need to go here, I'll go there and I'll share just because I want to empower that person. So I think there's a difference between like being vulnerable and sharing things you shouldn't be sharing and sharing to empower people, right? So I share to empower. So that's one thing. As it relates to social media, is I I do podcasts, I do social media, I do share my story publicly. I think you have to decide what is it that you want people to know about you. And if there's things that you don't want them to know or you're uncomfortable with putting out there, don't, right? Like have your own process. This goes back into like values. So like craft your values and then craft the pieces that are relevant that you want other people to connect with. And the stuff that doesn't, that you don't want to put out there, that you don't want to share, don't share it. But always lead into like do what authentically works for you. For some people, that's going to be meeting people in person, going to networking events, going to the Chamber of Commerce. For other people, that's going to be social media. It's going to be doing cold calls and drop-ins and knocking on doors. Like everybody has a different path, and other people it's going to be purely just doing Facebook reels or Instagram reels or TikTok or whatever people are doing. So I think you have to be authentic. You have to figure out what works for you, and you got to do that. And then as it relates to sharing, you have to know why you're sharing and share within the proper context so that it doesn't become like this strategy for connecting with people, but it's coming from a position of like strength. Like I'm sharing this because I want to empower this person and help this person live a better life or get where they're trying to go faster, which is why I do it.
Yeah, great. I had a question around, I don't know, first of all, before I hog the question space, please, if you have any questions or if you want to ask a question live, don't forget to raise your hand or drop it in the chat. But I know one of the things that you mentioned in your presentation had a lot to do with values and goals or setting that vision. Sometimes I think when we go to set goals for ourselves, we always think of it in a monetary sense. Do you have any suggestions on on how to set goals or the vision of what we want for ourselves? Do you have like a framework? Um,
Yeah.
or any thoughts or insights on how you framed yours?
Yeah. So I have a podcast called Purpose, and there's an acronym for it, which is if you look at purpose, there's P stands for principles, which is your values. U stands for unique capabilities. R stands for relationships. P stands for profession. Outcome stands for the goals. S stands for the story. E stands for execution. So as it relates to how do you set goals and um, not allow it to just be monetary, I think you should look at, you know, 5 domains of your life, right? Like health, you know, physical, financial, right? Mental, emotional. Actually sit down and think about how do you want your life to look as it relates to those things. Think about what is it going to cost? What is it going to cost to live where you want to live? Like, where do you want your kids to be able to go to school? What do you want to be able to participate in from a time standpoint, right? Like, I think it just takes time to sit down and think about all the different areas. I do have a worksheet that I could provide to people, which is called the Dreams Worksheet, that takes people through these different areas of their life where they could actually sit down and get clear about the different things that are really important to them. But I really think it just comes down to like what is it? I mean, yes, monetary is important because my friend Fee Gentry said something to me the other day. She said, money is not the most important thing, but it impacts all the most important things. Right. So so
Cool,
money
right?
is important, right? But you have to journal. Like you have to like take some time and think about like, okay, what do I really want? Is it the travel? Is it the relationships? Like what I want my schedule to look like? Like all those things. So you have to take some time to like I don't think that there's like a process. I think you just have to figure out, like, sit down and think about it, like all these different areas. If you're a spiritual person, like, what does that mean to you? And are you just trying to make enough money for yourself? Are you trying to like give money away? Are you trying to volunteer? Or, like what's really important to you? Because for everybody, it's different. Like, I don't know that there's, I think early on in my journey, like I was like, oh yeah, man, I want to make a lot of money. Like, of course, like that's easy. Like that doesn't, that's an easy goal to set. But I think that if you're not clear about the story behind the money, then you'll quit, because nobody really wants $1 million that bad. But we really want to be able to like
Yeah.
see our mom more than like once every 5 years.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily the $1 million, it's what that $1 million can provide you access to do.
Exactly.
Can you repeat the purpose definition again?
P stands for principles. U stands for uniqueness. R stands for relationships. P stands for profession. O stands for outcomes. S stands for story. E stands for execution.
That's great.
Yeah.
So Ashley says we need a journal group.
Let's get it going.
Sounds like you started a group for us. Let us know where we sign up.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions from the group, from the panelists before we wrap up? Well, I do have another question for you. This is going to be, I just want to know this because it seems like you probably have absorbed a lot of information over time. Do you have any favorite books that you would like to share with us?
Yeah. The Relationship Edge in Business by Jerry Acuff will always and forever be my favorite. Um, of course, the Leadership Bible by John Maxwell is another great one. Um, The Go Giver by Bob Berg is another great book for like mindset. The Magic of Thinking Big is another great book.
See, Monique, are you
Unleash,
getting these so you can share them?
Unleash the Power Within by Tony Robbins.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Well, um, generally, this last part is just for question and answers. Panelists, Melanie, Monique, Ashley, anybody have any final questions or thoughts before we check on out of here?
No, just to say thank you, Keith. That was amazing and great information. It's so important for everything that's, upon us right now in our industry to people just remember what's truly
Absolutely.
important, what's at the basis
Yeah.
of what we do, right? So thank
Yeah.
you so much for this.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been an
And,
honor.
and maybe that's something we could touch on in the last few minutes because it's always a fun, hot topic, right? With this change in our potential upcoming changes in our industry, nothing is finalized yet, but where do you see that this possibly, like the information you shared today, how this could help us if there are changes to way our businesses are structured and the ways that agents get paid?
Yeah. We got to own the relationship. Right. So people shouldn't be thinking about anybody else but you when it comes to doing anything. Right. Like anything in their life. Right. Like, oh, I need to change a job. Like, oh, I need to hit up Rachel because I know she knows everybody, and she's always helpful. She's always introducing me to people. She's always like, you know, following up on the goals that I have. Right. I think sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle of like, we're pursuing our thing. And so it's kind of hard. But I would say that we got to own the relationship. I mean, that's it. I mean, whether somebody is buying, selling, changing jobs, like we should be their resource, right? Because if we don't, when it comes time for them to do a transaction, they're going to do it with whoever the most relevant person is in the most previous like 3 to 6 months. So we can't. I don't think we can afford to be passive, in terms of like just putting people in our CRM and just thinking that that's going to be good enough, because everybody's doing that. Everybody has access to that. People go to whatever, people, it comes with the company, whoever you work for, right? So everybody got a CRM, and most of them very similar. So it's interesting when you have so many realtors in your phone, like I do, and you end up on the same newsletter, and you get the same newsletter from the same, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, like this was the newsletter for the month. Got it. You weren't actually thinking of me. Cool. you know,
So that
like
unique,
Bob and Susan got the same newsletter. That's interesting.
and that kind of plays into that uniqueness that you
Yep.
mentioned as part of
Yeah.
purpose. Do you mentioned CRM, because again, when you're kind of keeping on top of, you said write down other people's goals. That's something that really sat with me, making sure that if you're writing down other people's goals or just like things that are going on in their lives, you have some kind of CRM or task management system that helps you to stay on top of keeping track of everybody's names, what they do for a living. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
of course, almost any CRM, but like, do you have any other tools or techniques?
Yeah. I mean, we all have a cell phone. So I mean, that's the easiest and lowest cost is inside the notes section of your cell phone, right? You could go in there and be like, gluten free, like I don't know, right? Like it's, or whatever, right? Or wants to do this or do that. And then of course your CRM has a note section. I'm sure we do have a variety of different CRMs that we have relationships with, but I don't want to make any
Yeah.
recommendations like here on like what else people could use. I think it's not really that. I mean, it could be a Excel spreadsheet. I mean, when we look at our sphere of influence, how many legitimate real people do we really have that would do business with us? I think the study is like the maximum amount of people that we could like truly keep in relationship with is like 150 people. So
Yeah.
like a note section inside of a CRM, inside of an Excel spreadsheet on your desktop is sufficient. Bob Jones likes pizza from XYZ company and is an engineer and loves to fly fish. So when you get the net, so subscribe to the fly fishing, you know, I don't fly fish. So whatever company out there that sells fly fishing stuff, how about you subscribe to it? And the next email that you get, forward it to Bob. Bob, did you see this deal? Right? I thought about you. Hope you're doing great. Love you.
This is some real nuggets right here. Great ideas.
you know,
So now we're
yeah,
gonna have some homework for everybody who's here today. Go, make sure you have at least 150 people in your CRM, and make sure you have FORMS filled out for everybody in there to understand, and that means get to the phones and don't go call to sell anything. Just call them. And it doesn't have to be, all right, I'm going to give you a survey. Let me ask you about your family occupation. But like, set that up
yeah, right.
over time. This call, I'm going to focus on family. Maybe the next one I'll focus on occupation. So, for many of us who are sitting here thinking like, I don't really even know how to get business, it's right here. It's right here.
Mm-hmm.
Go develop relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I
really
already
be
said you
careful
got to
what
be
their
careful.
hobbies
Yeah,
are, right?
that's true. That's true.
No
Yeah.
X-rated things.
Yeah.
But well, no, we really, really, really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you for taking the time to share these gems with us. Can you just let us know best ways for us to get in contact with you? Could be your social handles, email
Mm-hmm.
address. Go ahead
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So social handle is ampersand Keith Sconiers. Is that what you say? Is it ampersand?
I
The
think it's
at
just
sign
at,
at
at a,
Keith Sconiers. Yeah. On LinkedIn, Instagram. My email is keith@keithsconiers.com. My website is keithsconiers.com. You can fill out the Let's Talk form on there if you want to get in contact too. So I'm out there on social media, but you can also connect with me directly.
Okay. And don't forget, if you're not already a member of Black EXP Network, you do have to be an EXP agent, but go join Black EXP Network on Workplace. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We're always doing great things here, and we want you to join and go find a friend, bring a friend. So, All right, everybody. Well, that's all we have for today. We will see you next month. The date is, let me pull my calendar. It is going to be the second Tuesday, which is May 14th. And we are going to have a very, very special guest, Monique Harps, with us. And she is going to talk to us about utilizing events to create and build those relationships in your business. And so we're super excited to hear about that one as well. So y'all have a great evening. Did I miss anything, Melanie? That I need to?
No, you are good to go, lady. Thank you for
All
doing a
right.
great job as always.
Well,
Thank you,
thank
Keith.
y'all for being here with us.
Yeah.
And thank you, Keith.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Rachel.
Great
Thanks,
evening.
everybody.
Bye.